rocky relationship with Realm of Magic because I want to like the pack. I think the gameplay is actually kind of interesting, but the world is so bad that it ruins the whole thing for me. I know I joke constantly about how bad the builds from this pack are, but the worst build of all, honestly, what I consider maybe to be the worst build in the entire Sims 4 is in the Magic realm, which I think a lot of people haven't even really ever seen before. But there's a secret-ish world from Realm of Magic called the Magic Realm. You can travel there if your sim is a spellcaster, so you can use this little glimmerstone or the portal in the world. And when you get there, the lot itself is sort of meant to be like a magical training grounds or like a magic community center or something. You can come here to practice all the different kinds of magic, and the world is really amazing. Like, the environment around here is pretty cool. Your sim like teleports and flies over to this little city section where you can buy like brooms and wands and stuff like that. It's genuinely really amazing. There's so much potential here in this area, but the build that they made for this lot, I almost can't even look at it. Like, to me, this is just so unbelievably horrifying. I don't understand why they made this and then sold the pack with this. And this is like the main lot from the pack. This is like the main cool thing, is to come here and practice magic. And it looks like that. And I'm not even just trying to be mean about the exterior. Like, the interior is kind of bugged as well. First of all, there's like nothing here. Look at the whole upstairs. There's like 2 things placed. But because they have these big open areas, the game considers the whole place to be outside. So the lighting is kind of weird. It's like very dark and shadowy because the game thinks it's outside. There are some cool things, like this basement actually has 2 levels to it, so you can go really deep down into the ground. I actually love this little plant area surrounding this cauldron. I think this glass roof idea is kind of cool. I like the color scheme. So there's some things that aren't so bad, but overall, this place really could use a redo. So today, I want to bulldoze this thing and just completely rebuild it. There's not even any point in trying to renovate it. We just have to kill this whole thing and start over. You also can't edit this lot by default. You need to use a cheat. So by typing bb.enable free build, you can build here and you can bulldoze it, which I am going to do. And here's one other slight little thing just to make you want to cry. You see this terrain paint? You know how normally when there's terrain paint left on a lot, you could erase it? You could even press this button to bulldoze the terrain. Yeah, no, you can't do that here. This isn't actually terrain paint. This is just the world. The lot just looks like that. You physically cannot erase this. It is stuck on the ground. And that's because this terrain paint doesn't actually exist in the game. So they added this here as part of the environment, but you can't remove it. So we're gonna have to try and cover it up with some grass terrain paint or something. It's just gonna look horrible, and we're gonna have to learn to accept that. Over the years, this lot has brought me near tears multiple times, and I'm not even exaggerating, but we have a long speed build ahead of us. So with that being said, I'm gonna jump straight into it. I don't really know what they were going for originally, but the build itself almost looks a little bit like a cat in that original version. For mine, I kind of wanted less cat and more castle. So with this, I was kind of going for old castle-y vibes, but like magical castle vibes. So it's got some floating towers and stuff like that going on. In fact, it has a lot of towers. You'll see me adding them. This was kind of an ordeal to build. And this is one of those times, like I often have to say, where I really have to ask you to trust the process. Because as we're starting this, you're gonna see some things that you're gonna think are really bad. And me too, I think so too. It just, sometimes you have to experiment a bit before you figure out what you're going for. It took me a while to get the hang of it and like really see what I wanted it to do. But once we got through that weird experimentation phase, it does start coming together. Just trust me, give it time, it'll get there. And I should warn you also, this build took me like 6 hours to make. So obviously I can't speed up 6 full hours of footage. This would be like a 2-hour long speed build, to be honest. So instead, what I've done is cut out a few of the less important things. Oftentimes with this, I cut out stuff like hallways or bathrooms. I cut out some of the floor plan because it took me ages of like doing and redoing and then doing again to figure it out. So I just cut those parts out and I'll show you them in the tour at the end of the video. I tried to focus on showing the more important parts in the speed build and the less boring things, because really, do any of us want to watch me furnish like 3 hallways? No. we don't. That's boring. Now, as far as the actual build goes, there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to include on this one, just skill building and functionality wise. So to give you an idea, in case you're not familiar of what this lot does, I kind of described it as like a magic school or a magic community center. It really is like a catch-all lot for magic training. So when you play with Realm of Magic as a spellcaster, you're probably gonna end up spending a lot of time here on this Magic Realm lot because one, you can use the shops over on the other side, but also this is where all the other spellcasters are, and you can come here to talk to the different magic teachers. There's a few different kinds of magic. Your sim can do potions, there's practical magic, there's untamed magic, and there's mischief magic, and there's a sage or a teacher of each of those kinds of magic. You can actually see a couple of them right now just like there on the lot. If you see some random sims kind of just standing there with a thing floating over their head, their names are Morgan Ember, who's the untamed magic one, Simeon Silverwater, who is the practical magic one, and Elphaba, who is the mischief magic one. Not to be confused with Elphaba from Wicked, but sort of to be confused with Elphaba from Wicked. In the game, her name is like Elphaba. Like her first name is L, last name is F-A-B-A. And she's also purple, not green, but clearly her name is a reference to Wicked. And because there's 3 different magic sages, I wanted to make sure they each had their own room to help teach those kinds of magic. So the entire upstairs is dedicated to those rooms. I don't want to call them classrooms because they're more like offices or like, I don't know, almost like a common room, you know? But I gave each person one and I really tried to go overboard with the color schemes and the decorating and make them very magical seeming. I'll get into that more once we're actually furnishing. But then also on the lot, I wanted to have a greenhouse because a lot of the stuff that you do here is potion making. And for those potions, you need a lot of ingredients like different plants and stuff like that. So you can see it right now. I've got a greenhouse attached by a walkway to the side of the building. And that was kind of fun because I got to use the new greenhouse kit, which actually isn't really that new anymore, but it worked out perfectly for this. And in there, I put a lot of the most common plants that you use for potions. Things like apples, for example, are so useful because you can make a couple really easy potions that just fill all your Sims needs, and you need stuff like apples for those. But there's also some of the magic plants in there because there's a couple Realm of Magic exclusive plants. And then downstairs in the main building, we have a lot of other useful, like, need fixing items. So we have a kitchen down there and like a big dining table. Obviously there's bathrooms kind of peppered around the place. And downstairs I added a dorm. Something that I've realized from my own gameplay here is that I tend to have my sim just stay here for a really long time. I don't really like to go home and then come back and then go home again. So I tend to just like kind of move in a little bit, at least temporarily as I'm first learning a lot of those early skills and stuff. And so downstairs I put a handful of beds so that way if you wanted to have your sim sleep here, they could. Eventually, you start being able to make potions to fill your Sims needs, so you don't really need that as much, but early days, it does kind of help. And I've got a couple slight disclaimers that I should warn you about. So number 1, I'm building this lot backwards for almost the entirety of the video. This is one of those lots that has absolutely horrendous lighting at almost all times of the day. No, at all times of the day. It really does. From the front, it's always in shadows, which is really annoying for building and for taking screenshots, especially when I'm building like for a YouTube video. This would be less of a big deal if I was just playing on my own. But because I'm recording this, you want to see the colors and see what it looks like. So oftentimes I have to flip the lots around and build them backwards just so that like the front has better lighting for the majority of the video. And then obviously for actual gameplay, we'd flip it around and then you would play with it from the other side. But the front is the back and the back is the front right now. It's all very confusing. And one last other disclaimer, okay? I realize that me calling this a magic school and adding a dorm is giving major Harry Potter vibes. I want to clarify that is not even remotely my intention, okay? I don't even want to have to talk about that woman or like get into it at all, but I feel like I should mention it. Obviously, zero respect for J.K. Rowling, and I'm not trying to reference Harry Potter. I'm more so just making a big magic castle, okay? I know it's hard to not associate because it's so popular, but like it's just a magic castle that happens to have some useful gameplay items in it, okay? In absolutely no way, shape, or form do we respect respect or support transphobes in this community. I know you all know that, I feel like we should mention it. But on a lighter note, we're actually decorating the exterior of the build now. We're putting in some windows and stuff. My favorite part by far of the whole exterior is the greenhouse and the 2 glass roof details that I added. And my least favorite part is the windows, because I had a very hard time deciding what windows to use. It was difficult because I wanted stained glass, but I wanted it to be black, and I wanted to use Realm of Magic, but honestly, Realm of Magic doesn't have that many window variants. That's part of like one of my biggest criticisms of this pack is just how few window variants there are. It's so hard to do builds with the new windows in packs that only give you a couple matching ones, because I need like 5 or 6 different size variants of windows to be able to use them for a full giant castle like this, but we only have like 4 that I could use. And I mean, if I could get 10 different variants, I'd be happy. Like, I just want to have a huge window set like how Seasons or Cats and Dogs has. And when I don't have that, it's so difficult to build with. They keep doing this too, where we'll get a couple like really nice windows, but it's just like 2 instead of like 7. And you can't really put those same 2 windows everywhere across an entire castle because there's just not enough size variation. They don't fit everywhere. And then the other problem is these Realm of Magic windows are really nice, but most of the other windows from the other packs don't match them. So I built this live when I was streaming on Twitch, and the whole chat was like giving suggestions like, oh, try Strangerville windows. Guess what? Strangerville? No black swatch. Not a single black window in Strangerville. There's brown, there's blue, there's pink, no black. Not a single black window in Strangerville. And obviously this whole building is kind of dark. It's got a lot of black accents and this dark brick. So I don't want to put like a white Strangerville window. So anyway, the windows were a real ordeal trying to place them. I did the front and then kind of gave up and then furnished the inside and then came back and added more windows. There was a lot of back and forth on this build. The first rooms that I furnished inside were the need-based rooms. So like the dorm room and the bathrooms and the kitchen, all those things that are gonna come in handy when it comes to feeding your Sims and like surviving. I also did them first because to me, they were the least interesting. I was way more interested in doing the special sages rooms upstairs, so I wanted to get the downstairs over with. I always feel so bad when I bulldoze community lots and then build them again because there's always Sims that are just kind of there. It happens on any community lot. You like destroy a bar to rebuild it and the bartender is kind of just like standing there in the middle of the room. And I always just kind of keep building around them. You end up like placing furniture in them. I always feel kind of guilty about that, but that's obviously happening here. So if you see any random Sims, just ignore, they're fine. And we are finally moving upstairs to the exciting part, all of the different rooms for the sages. And we're starting off with the mischief magic room. So originally in the default build, the mischief stuff I assume is downstairs in the basement. Obviously I brought mine upstairs into this room and I kind of went all out in here. I made it like all purple lighting and I put crystals everywhere. I don't really know what the crystals have to do with mischief magic, but the crystals do match Elphaba. So I kept like the purple vibes that she has and used that as the theme in here. I gave her a cauldron. I also gave each of these different people their own desk in their rooms and usually some places to sit. The gameplay of this pack more so involves talking to them. Like you'll talk to them and befriend them and practice magic with them. So you kind of just need open space for them basically. So I tried not to put too much just so that there was room for you to stand and talk to them. And to be honest, I'm also not really sure how you can guarantee that they'll stand in these rooms. Like it is entirely possible that they'll just stand elsewhere. And I don't know what to do about that. I don't know if I can control that. So I'm more so decorating for my own peace of mind and like fun than for actual practical purposes. You'll probably end up outside practicing, to be honest with you, but that's okay. At least this is cute. And again, I realize that the bright pink lighting and the crystals everywhere is maybe a little bit much, but my thought process here is like, when else are you gonna use these things, okay? When else can you have hot pink candles and like crystals all over the floor? Obviously, this is your chance. It's the magic room. So I kind of had that philosophy with all the other magic rooms as well. One of them is very, very plant focused, which we'll get into. I think I probably spent the most amount of time on this mischief magic room just because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet. I wasn't sure like how far I wanted to take it and how many crystals I wanted to add. And so once I decided I was just gonna go all out, then it got a little bit easier. But I was digging around for different pink and purple crystals that fit and like trying to figure out what would look the best. I think actually in the end, this is probably my least favorite of the 3 rooms. I like it, don't get me wrong, but I think I like the others better. Also, one more thing to warn you about. This build uses so many packs. Like a horrifying number of packs. I really do try to make limited pack builds from time to time. This is not one of them. This is absolutely not one of them. I used everything. Even in this room, there's kits everywhere. There's like the spooky stuff pack everywhere. Obviously, Realm of Magic's in here. I mean, I've got the vampires pack, everything. Every pack is in this room. I always struggle with that a lot because I like to do limited pack builds just because I know how it feels to not have all the Sims packs and like watch these YouTubers use all of these packs that cost like $1 million. Trust me, I've been there. I don't know how many of you watch Sims YouTube in the Sims 3 days, but my God, the amount of store content that people used to use, and I would so desperately want, but just like couldn't have because it would be like $20 for a room set. I mean, the Sims 3 store was horrifyingly expensive, and it used to just break my little 10-year-old heart to watch these build videos on YouTube and not have the stuff that was being used in them. So I'm sorry. I really understand how it feels. And that's why I kind of like struggle with going back and forth on making builds that everyone can use and download with less packs or just base game, but also wanting to use all the packs because it looks cool and people like to see the stuff. So I don't know. I try and do a sort of back and forth. That's one of those things that I'll oftentimes ask my Twitch community about because I often will build live on Twitch. So I'll be like, hey, everybody, what are our thoughts today? Should we do just Realm of Magic or should we just go for it? And people usually say to just go for it and use everything, but I'm sorry. I know this one is rough. There's a lot of packs in here. Oh my God. And speaking of rough, it is storming. All of a sudden, it just got so windy outside. There's a tree near my window and it's like swaying. It's a palm tree, so you know, palm trees are weird, but it's like swaying in the wind. Palm trees are kind of scary. They like sway to an alarming degree. That's actually kind of funny because Dan just put the doormats outside, like in the driveway to dry off in the sun because they were all wet. And then the storm came out of nowhere and they're even more wet now because it's absolutely pouring. So classic, perfect. But anyway, we're moving on to the other room now. This is the plant room, which you can probably tell by the large amount of leaves. We finished Elphaba's mischief magic, and now we're doing Simeon Silverwater's practical magic. Now, practical magic doesn't really have that much to do with plants, okay? It's not like the whole thing. There's really no plant ties aside from the fact that Simeon is green. Like he's got a little green thing above his head and he wears like, I don't know, it's like greenish brown, his outfit. But because I was sort of just committing to the bit and going all out with the rooms, I thought, you know what? Let's put mushrooms everywhere. I'll put like plant curtains and mushrooms all over the place in here. So the room has kind of like a little corner for the cauldron. It's also got a little mini greenhouse space in it. I guess greenhouse is the wrong word. It has like some spots for some plants, and then there's just plants everywhere. Everywhere there are plants. There's also a lot of books in this build. I used the Book Nook kit a lot, but not for the bookshelves. I instead used the Realm of Magic bookshelves, but I put the Book Nook kit clutter everywhere because there's those big piles of books, and I think it's kind of cool in a place like this to just have like stacks and stacks of books everywhere. I think I struggle with the layout of this room the most. I like the vibes of this room best because I love the plants and I love the mushrooms, but I just didn't really know how to fill this room in. I was kind of having difficulties with like what to put in here and where to put it, but in the middle I have a desk for Simeon and then there's some chairs and stuff. In reality, the Sims aren't going to use the desk. You might use the desk, but the actual Sims won't. That's kind of pretend. The actual Sims aren't going to stand in these rooms. It's not going to work the way I want it to. It's all pretend, okay? The Sims in general is all pretend. It does take a lot of creativity to enjoy this game, I think. But anyway, after we finish this plant room for practical magic, the last room is for untamed magic. And Morgan Ember is the Sim who teaches untamed magic. And I think Morgan Ember is commonly seen as one of the more popular townies that they've added. Morgan is actually a really cool Sim. I might hate this pack, but I like Morgan. Morgan has a lot of like red and yellow vibes to them, so I tried to have that be like the main theme of their room. There's also a lot of fire happening with untamed magic, so I put like a fireplace and stuff in there. It's all very black and red. Everything in that room is very black and red, which is kind of a fun and stark contrast from like the green and the pink, which is obviously kind of what I was going for when I was building all of this. I wanted drama and contrast and like silly, goofy, magical rooms everywhere. I don't really build that many silly, goofy, magical things. I do a lot of like realistic houses. So making castles like this with glowing lights and crystals and everything is kind of fun and different for me. But over here on the far side where Morgan's room is, this is actually the biggest of all of the rooms. So I kind of struggle with filling this one up a little bit too, This room also has the only access to the only bathroom upstairs, which I kind of didn't love. I sort of wish that I could have had like hallway access to the bathroom, but with where the staircase was, the only place that I could put it was off of this room. There is a couple bathrooms downstairs, but I kind of wanted them everywhere just for easy access. So instead, I kind of put like a hallway off of Morgan's room to get into the bathroom. And then in the main room, there's a fireplace and some seating. Morgan also has a cauldron in here that's kind of a similar vibe to the other room's cauldron sections. And I gave Morgan a big, giant, long desk, like a 3-wide table, just absolutely covered in books. Books everywhere. This is gonna kind of date this video, but I actually built this lot before the horse pack came out. I'm recording this voiceover like close to when I'm uploading the video, but I built this a little bit ago. This was the last thing I built pre-horses though, so I was kind of in a rush to finish it before I got early access to the horse pack, because I just knew that if I didn't finish it before I got my early access, there's no way I was gonna wanna work on this. It took me a lot to get up the courage to build this Realm of Magic lot anyway, let alone if I've got horses that I could be using instead. So I was like, okay, Kayla, we have to focus and we have to get through this. It was fun to decorate. I think the beginning was kind of hard for me to figure out what I wanted, and then I was bored of like the bathrooms. But the other rooms, like the dorms and all of this part, was kind of fun to decorate. And at this point, we are just about done with the build. I'm adding in some finishing touches. There's a lot of things that you haven't seen yet. Like I said, I cut out like a lot of the downstairs, and this lot actually has a huge basement. So the original build had a basement, obviously, and in this one I kind of wanted to use a basement too, but because I put all of the other rooms upstairs, I didn't really know what to put in the basement. But the spellcasters can duel. There's like a dueling area back behind this lot, and so I thought, what if we tried to make a dueling section in the basement? So it's basically just a big open room. I'll show you in the tour. It's got some interesting details in the floor, but there's also a lot of like cracks in the wall from what I imagine to be like missed spells and stuff. And so your Sims hopefully can use that area to practice the duels and not have to go so far to get to a space where they can. Even if they can't use it, it is kind of a cute little detail though, because it's like this secret basement behind a bookcase door, so it's kind of a fun little spot to have. And also downstairs, again, I'll show you, in the main living space when you first walk in, I put a whole bunch of desks and also like a fireplace and some seating, so your Sims could probably nap there, but also it's a good spot to sit and like study or talk to people. You could get a laptop and use the computers. But with that, the speed build is completely done. Finally. This is such a long video. So now I want to jump back into the game and give you a complete tour of our finished magic castle. This is our big, horrible, empty lot with stupid, stuck terrain paint. And on the gallery, I just called this the Magic Realm. Like I mentioned, it uses a ridiculous number of packs. It's also very expensive, but that's fine because it's a community lot, so you don't need to worry about money. And this is what the completed building looks like. So I can show you, I cut out a lot of landscaping because it took me forever to do, but all around the sides, I used a lot of these little tiny bushes and some purple flowers combined with these purple mushrooms. These are from the Realm of Magic debug, and then both of these flowers are from the Romantic Garden stuff pack, but I really liked how magical these things looked when they were sized up. I kind of put those all around the sides, also with some of these big Realm of Magic debug trees. Over here, I put a wishing well because I don't really use those in community lots very often, but this feels like a good time to have one. Around the back over here, there's a little patio. I did actually put a couple chess tables. There's also a telescope in case you want your Sims to maybe die by getting struck by a meteor. And then over here, there's kind of like a secret patio almost. I did put some plants. There's the mandrakes and also the valerian plants over here. Those are the Realm of Magic ones. And there's an extra cauldron because I found that a lot of times the other Sims are using all the cauldrons. It's kind of like with computers at the library. The other townies use them all up, so I tried to put extra. And this way, if it like, who knows, catches fire or something, it's safe and outside. There's also a swing set in case there's kids here or if you wanted to build your fun somehow. And then this is that greenhouse I was talking about. This is my absolute favorite part of the whole build. I love the fancy roof and the pretty windows. You kind of go over this walkway to get to it, and then in the greenhouse, I put everything, okay? We've got like all the trees you could possibly need. I also tried to focus on a lot of plants that I knew that you used for different potions, so things like strawberries, potatoes, a few very various flowers, stuff like that. So hopefully you can just come here and harvest this stuff and it'll be easy access for your Sims. I really enjoy the shape of this building too. There's kind of a couple like funky parts along the roof. There's some floating tower bits and stuff like that. I loved this open greenhouse area on the roof here, and that's actually over the plant room, which kind of makes sense because there's, you know, all these plants growing in there. When you actually come inside, you walk in through this front door right here. It's just kind of a small entryway, and this is that like study and hangout space that I was talking about. So there's bookshelves, there's some couches, a couple desks. In the corner, I have a chess table for you. To the right, we have the little dorm room I mentioned. So we have 3 beds here and a fireplace. There's kind of like a little seating area in this window nook, and there's also a bathroom with a shower. So if you need a shower, there is one here. Your Sims can woohoo in there, you can shower in there, kind of cover all your bases. This pack has some weird stuff. I've never used this peacock sink before, but again, obviously this is my chance, so I use that in here. In the back of this area, we have a big long dining table, and there's also a little kitchen. Your Sims can actually make like a big vat of mac and cheese in the cauldrons, but if you want to cook regular food and just have like, you know, a garden salad or something, you can make that in here. There's this little door into a hallway that takes you to a bathroom. In total, there's 3 bathrooms on this lot. And then you might be noticing this bookshelf that I've made. I tried to make the bookshelf door really blend in and kind of hide it between these other bookshelves, but this is actually a door. And through there, it's this like dark, kind of scary hallway. And the dark, scary hallway takes you into that cool dueling basement that I mentioned. So in here, there's just cracks in the wall, spider webs, knight statues. There's a couple benches. And then also, this is a tragic clown shrine. This is kind of a nod to the first ever Magic Realm build that I did, because when I first renovated it originally, I put this in there. It was a little bit creepier in that version, but I used that again here in this basement. And then if you go back and you actually go upstairs, there's a very small hallway. It's not very fancy, but this has all 3 of the magic rooms. So this is that mischief magic purple room, which I am obsessed with. I love how glowy it is and all of the different crystals. There are cauldrons everywhere for your Sims to use and practice in each of these. I had fun kind of mixing and matching the packs too, because the werewolf pack I felt like had some stuff that matched this perfectly, like this mirror. It even has this little clock, which is kind of weird, but also kind of fits the vibes. And obviously this crystal fireplace was kind of the whole inspiration for the whole room. And then over here, this is that plant room we mentioned. It's got the plants and greenery everywhere, like literally everywhere. And back on this side, this is that untamed magic room. I think my favorite part of this room is the desk. I love how this looks. But that, my friends, is the entire build. I didn't put anything upstairs in the 3rd floor because it was kind of weird shapes. Like it didn't really fit, and I didn't know where to put like a ladder, so I just didn't use it. But everything else gets used. And I love how there's cauldrons in each of the towers. I think that's kind of a cool little touch. This is kind of making me excited to play with Realm of Magic again. I'm a little bit obsessed with horses right now, so I probably won't do that yet, but maybe eventually we could dive back into the Magic Realm. My favorite part is the greenhouse and the landscaping, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this build. Do you like it? Did I do a decent job? I tried. I think that at least it's better than the original, okay? It might not be great, but it is an improvement, a significant improvement in my humble opinion. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. I do have this on the gallery in case you want to download it. And if you like build videos like this, I post a ton here on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And with that being said, I'm gonna catch you all tomorrow, okay? Bye, everybody. I love the purple and pink accents of this whole area. Like the sky is pink, the trees are pink, the flowers are pink. It's just pretty. It is such a shame that the original build looked like that.